guys, this is Josh with Graceful Productions. Thank you for tuning in to part 2 of our 5 stages of productions. If you haven't already, I would suggest going back and watching part 1 to see the other 4 steps, which is 5 stages of productions, Lofi tutorial part 1. If you're new to the channel, thank you for clicking and consider watching. I hope you enjoy, and if you're back again and already subscribed, thank you so much for your support. So let's get into it. Start with our drums. I usually start with drums just so I can get that sound good, and it's usually where everything gets muddied up in the first place. So if I can clear that up or clean it up first, that would be a lot simpler. So we're going to go into our mixer here, press X. I have my EQs up on top. That's not like a rule or anything, that's just what I like to do. And I've EQ'd a little bit just as I was making the beat, just so I can get the sound the way I want to. Let's get into our bass here. I'm going to put our kick and our bass next to each other, and they're already, see how they're complementing each other. The kick is high right here, and the bass is not. It gives each other room to breathe. I've covered that in the first video. And we're pretty high up. I like to keep my dBs at about -6 before I start mastering. So we're going to try to get these down to -6 and also make everything sound good. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to highlight everything except for our delays. We're going to bring them all down. Shift and click highlights everything. Bring them all down. We're going to start it. Press C for cycle. And we're just going to start bringing them in one at a time to see what we like. Well, okay, since this is grouped already, I'm just going to do them by themselves in here. I want more reverb on that. Since it's routed to reverb over here, which is bus 7, I can just turn this up. Now it's just finding that part, but we're going to leave it. There we go. Automation is messing with that right here. That's what those numbers are moving for. Alright. I think my kick sounds alright for right now. Let's bring in this bass. Yeah, it's not muddy at all. That will need changed, because it's good throughout here. There. And then bring in this atmosphere. We're already running pretty hot. What I'll do is I'll bring them all in, and then I'll do it again. And I'll do that 3 times. I'll make it sound good, and then I'll bring in something else first. So I did the drums this time. And so next time when we come through, we're going to bring in the atmosphere or whatever. And then if I think that sounds good, we're going to leave it. And then we're going to select them all at the same time and notch them down to where it doesn't hit above -6. And I'll explain why later. don't think I'm going to need a compressor on my kick. Good rule of thumb, if you're trying to get your levels correct and everything, always go at the hottest part of the song. So my chorus 2 here is when everything's running together, so it's going to be the most loudest part. Like that. I'm going to bring them all down again. I'm going to bring them in separately this time, or differently. Remember, select, shift select highlights all of those. We're going to bring in the atmosphere first. Let me cue this by itself real quick. It's just definitely got some. Actually, let's go my low cut. I do the low cuts this way on high instruments so that it doesn't muddy up our drums and low end instruments. Good rule of thumb to have. Just picking sounds that I don't like and bringing them down. Put a shelf right there. Now it sounds good. The way I want it to. Really loud though. Alright, bring this one. Put another EQ. Very nice and dreamy. Maybe put a chorus effect on here. Yeah, let's go ahead. Just for when those highs kick in, it just gives a little glimmer. We'll leave it right there. S for unsolo. Alright, now let's bring in the melody. Because we don't need that muddying up our kick. Even though it's the bubble effect, it still happens though. Bring that down. Cycle them. I'm going to shorten the cycle. I'm doing the first 2 and chorus 2 because it's going to be the loudest part of my songs. Or this song, at least. What I'm going to do here is make my snare and my hi-hat. Make sure they don't clash. See how much that is right in that range. Put a shelf on here. option click on faders and it'll center them back to unity gain, which is 0. That melody is hitting pretty high. Pretty loud anyway. So what I'm going to do is solo this melody and the counter melody. X for mixer. I'm going to make sure that they don't clash on each other. So that doesn't need to be there. Well, we're going to bring this down a little bit right here. Bring that up. I think that'll be good. And then go into my automation. I think it's gonna sound cool. A for automation. We're gonna make this counter melody start higher with the EQ. I'm gonna bring it in, like, and make it go down. So, how we're going to do that, we're going to go option, click, I'm going to bring out where it is. We're not going to do volume. We're going to go in, channel EQ, 1, 2, 3, so you know which one you're messing with. Gain, option, we're going to make it start right here. Have an anchor, another anchor. Bring it up. We're gonna, nah, maybe not that much. Right about there. We're gonna make it drag back down. All right. Now we're gonna highlight this. We're gonna hold shift and select all these dots. Command C, bring it over here. Command V, Command V, Command V. I'm only going to do it in this later part of the song to give it more pizzazz. A to shut off automation. You can either press A or you can go up here to this little doohickey. See what it sounds like. X for mixer. I'm not going to do a third mix down of it because I like where it's at and everything sounds nice. We're just going to listen to it from the beginning. I like that delay. Everything sounds really nice and it's not clashing and it doesn't seem like it needs to be compressed on any individual level. Maybe the kick just a touch. That's not what I did. So we're going to do that real quick. For compressors, mixing wise, you usually do, depending on what you're trying to do, 3-to-1, 4-to-1 for kicks. What that is, it's just how much compression per 1 dB. So I want to get at least anywhere from a 3 to 5 dB cut, and then bring it back in the make. That way it's still as loud as it needs to be, but it's not muddying up the signal to make it super intense or push over the level to make distortion or clipping or what have you. Your release is just how fast it's going to release after the compression happens, and your attack is how fast it's going to compress when the signal comes in. And there's your compression. It's on a consistent basis. That's what you want. If you're going to compress, make it consistent. Not constant, consistent. It's actually going pretty quickly. I'm not really needing to do much compression on things. And that has to do with your EQ. If you EQ correctly, you don't always have to compress. What I mean by that is taking your EQs and making sure that everything has its own area to breathe. Like if you have multiple basses, multiple kicks, what have you, and they're all in different areas, they'll be able to breathe, and that way you don't have to compress it because there's no signal there to compress, because what's muddy is fixed within your EQ. Select all of these, bring them down just a little bit, so that it hits negative 4 dB, or negative 6 dB, I'm sorry. And that compression has a lot to do on your stereo. So, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. That's a pretty short mixing session, really. I'm happy with the sounds. Did a lot of the pre-mixing in part 1 to make it sound exactly how I wanted to, and then just side-by-side compressed, or not compressed, EQ'd, so that everything has its own room to breathe. Everything sounds good. It's not pushing too hot. It's not even clipping at all. So that way, when you send it off to the master, he has anywhere from 6 to 5-6 dB to work with to make it as loud as it needs to be, and with it also not being distorted or clipped. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of master in here. I'm going to linear EQ so that everything comes together here. We're going to do it on the later parts. And I'm going to put a limiter on here just to see how the compressors react to the limiter. A little bit of distortion. Since it's a master compressor, I don't want it to cut cut as much. I'll bring it down. Just a constant compression. We'll pull up my meters here. When you're mastering, I mean, this is a soft master, but you always want to look at your levels when you're mastering. So let's go to our loudness analyzer. To get a true reading of your LUFS, you have to play the entire song all the way through. This won't need very much. It's already at 14. It's always good to listen to this on other speakers, like headphones, and then put it on your computer, put it on your monitors, and then go listen to it in the car before you ever put it out, or send it to anybody. Even the drum kit's doing pretty good. Nice punchy kick. Hi-hat's not too much there. I'm just gonna bring it down just a touch. A few tips when mixing down things or certain tracks or regions. See, there's like a ton of processing on certain tracks. If you're getting a lot of latency, or just your computer's running super slow, check your sample rate, which would be preferences, audio, your buffer size, to turn that down if it's a lot of latency. Also, you could bounce regions in the track header in the playlist. So, oops. Control B would be bounce regions in place, which takes everything, even the processing and your whole mixing track, bounces that like you would a WAV file or an MP3, and it would make an audio file out of it and place it back into the playlist, so that your computer's not running so much, using so much CPU on one track. So now we have our hi-hat in here, and now there's nothing in the processing, so you can go back and do more processing if you really needed to, or what have you. You can do that with your whole session to make your CPU run a little nicer, your computer to run really much smoother. There's a lot of good things for that. I don't want that, so I'm just gonna do that. So that's bouncing regions in place. See how I have sections here? That is Control M to mute certain regions. C is to cycle your playback, make them sound the way I want to. So So what we're going to do, we're just going to highlight them all and then Command B to bounce. Write your ID3 tag. So this is important. If you're trying to sell a beat or just put a beat out there regardless, and you created everything, make sure you go into your tags and type in all your information. So if anybody tries to steal it and somebody goes into the information of that track, your name is going to pop up. That way nobody can steal your things. Like, they can still take it, whatever, but you'll have some backup in court. But I digress. So that's good to have. Good information to have. And then bounce it. Lofi tutorial. We're going to bounce it into here. Another good thing to know is, so say you're bouncing and it's taking forever. You have so many tracks, like 40, 50 tracks in a project and whatnot. Bounce some regions in place. That'll help speed up the bouncing process. So then if you don't have it to where your Finder pops up right away, right click, Lofi tutorial, and there's your bounces. You can bounce it right here. Thank you guys for watching this mixing tutorial. I know there wasn't a lot done in this one. This one was pretty simple. I thought it was going to be a little bit more, but please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for just tuning in, subscribing, and watching part 1, part 2. Again, if you would like to see how this beat was created and a few other tips and other things, go watch part 1, which is 5 stages of production, Lofi tutorial part 1. I'll put it in the link after this video. Again, this is Josh with Graceful Productions. Thank you guys. Peace.